induct the stillness. So
Okay.
if you drop your energy down into your belly and locate your stillness with eyes closed, perhaps. Just notice that place at the bottom of the breath or wherever else you feel stillness. Feeling the pleasure of nothing to do. And gently coming up, and gently opening eyes and looking around the screen, looking around the room, and noticing each other without giving up the still space within. So when we speak, words come from this place down here. So with eyes open, I'd like to invite each of you to take a minute into my eyes, either reflecting on this space of stillness or anything else that comes through from the stillness. Who would like to start? And thank you, Nikki. So Nikki, starting with the breath through my eyes, starting now.
Yesterday was extremely hectic, as was last week. I'm starting classes today. I have my first class, which we'll meet on Zoom. And I thought, oh my goodness, I have so much stuff that I have to do to prepare for this class. I can't possibly do a speaking circle, and I should contact Lee 24 hours in advance and let him know that I won't be there. And then I remembered that we start with stillness. And that's actually what I need. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, Nikki.
Hi, Farina. Let's take a breath together with you.
Hi, I'm so sorry I couldn't find my laptop. I was looking for it like.
So let's drop into stillness with you, Farina. Yeah, and Farina, would you change your name on your square? Okay. Who'd like to go next? Thank you, Lois. Checking in, starting with a breath, starting now.
I'm noticing how hard it is today to slow down. So I'm checking in with the intention of slowing down. I know the space is there at the bottom of the breath for me. That's where it is. Yeah. I remind myself of sort of a 2-year-old who's running around. You need to scoop me up. Say, sit here with me for a little while. You can slow down. When I don't think I can't slow down. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Who's up? Norman. Checking in through my eyes, starting with a breath, starting now.
An unusual week last week, which I would talk more about it later, but I didn't sleep for 2 days straight. And then the following night or the night after, I woke up with this electrical charge went through my head, and it went through quickly. And I woke up quickly because it wasn't even finished. And I fell down on the bed.
Hmm.
And before I said anything, my wife says, you know, you just were up in the air and you fell down. So that was a little scary.
Hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Norman.
you.
Thank you, Norman.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Norman.
Ryan. Taking in through my eyes, starting with a breath, starting.
I feels like I always have more options about what to talk about than it's like a more options, but not a great ability to choose between them. And what's really important to say? I don't know, but it feels good just to really not choose and just be here. So thanks, everyone.
Hmm.
Thank you, Ryan.
Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Hmm. Farina, checking in through my eyes, starting with the breath, starting now.
I feel like it's nice to be kind of still, especially because I was like working until 11:15, and then it's 11:30 here now, and yeah, and then I couldn't find my laptop, so I was like, is it stolen? Like I took everything off the bed, I pushed everything off my desk. I was like, where's my laptop? And then I just sat on my desk and said, okay, I guess I'm going to use my iPad. And then there was this book, and right under the book was my laptop. And I was like, it's right here all along. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Farina.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Farina.
Farina.
Oh, okay. We're all here. Yes. So, Nikki, 6 minutes, starting with breaths, calling your first listener to the camera, starting now.
Hmm. So Ryan, I'm feeling nervous, turmoil, anxious, excited. And that's on so many levels, Lois. Today is my first class. Tomorrow morning is my first of the second class. I have 2 classes this semester. And fortunately, Norman, and fortunately, not unfortunately, we are starting off on Zoom. So I'm pleased about that on a lot of levels. Number one being it snowed this morning, so I didn't have to drive into town in the snow. And Farina, I'm always nervous before classes. Whether it's, now that I think about it, now that I'm sort of mulling it over, whether it's my first class or my last class, I'll have to admit, Lee, I'm always nervous because teachers need to be performers. And especially, Lois, having empathy and understanding for students in what must seem to them an endless time, Ryan, of worrying and things being different and wondering, and will we get the vaccine, Norman, and will it be safe? We hear so many conflicting things, Lee. Masks work, masks don't work. This vaccine works, this vaccine doesn't work. So we all have to sort of make our own choices. But at the same time, Ryan, as these circles remind me, we make the choices on our own, but we are not alone. I guess there are billions, maybe, I don't know, Farina, maybe trillions of people who are in the same situation. And now I'm thinking, Lee, I need to shift my attitude away from being nervous about me to thinking about how, Lois, I can nurture these students. Some of them in my first class are high school students, and it's their first college class. And I can imagine, Norman, that they're even more anxious than I am. Some of them may not even know how to do Zoom. And as I've maybe thanked you before, Lee, or I should word it as I've been thankful for before for these Zoom circles for giving us such good experience. And Farina, every speaking circles experience that I have with Zoom is positive. And it nurtures me. So Ryan, that's what I'm going to carry over this afternoon is that caring, not lecturing Lois, but caring and being with. Thank you all for your help.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Nikki. Nikki, spacious underlying stillness.
Spacious underlying stillness. Thank you. Norman,
Nikki, loving sweetness.
loving sweetness. Thank you, Norman. Farina,
Caring wisdom.
caring wisdom. Thank you, Farina. Ryan,
Warmth and flow.
warmth, and flow. Thank you, Ryan. Lois,
Sweet honesty and insight.
sweet, honesty, and insight. Thank you, Lois. Thank you all.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you, Nikki.
Lois. 6 minutes, starting with breaths, calling a name to the camera, starting now.
Norman, I am unpacking an experience. I am being with it with you. Saturday morning, we had a Zoom teaching workshop with Temple Airy and the Stern Math Materials Arena. So I co-run the Stern Math Company, and we produce manipulatives made of wood and books that go with the manipulatives in order to teach children math. But my husband's grandmother, who invented this method, had been a Montessori teacher, Ryan, and she thought that math could be taught better. She liked Montessori very much, but she thought she could improve on Montessori. And the book she wrote was called Children Discover Arithmetic. So Nikki, it's a very, very playful method, very respectful of children's minds, and multisensory. And Temple Airy, who was the teacher who ran the workshop, is someone who worked with my mother-in-law for many years and is an incredibly wise and insightful teacher, Lee. During the pandemic, she started teaching kids by Zoom, and she was very skeptical about how it would go. She delivered, so she taught kids in New York, and she delivered some materials to the kids' houses. So they had materials on their side and she had materials on her side. And then they would be face-to-face on Zoom. And because it was Zoom, Norman, she was able to record her sessions with them, with the kids. So in this workshop, she had her explanation of how to teach with the materials, and she used a kind of camera, I've forgotten the name, but that focuses on her materials and makes it very clear what's happening on her side. And she gives an explanation, Verena, and then she has a video clip of a child in action. And there's this adorable 4-year-old named Tommy, who is, it's this idea of a picture's worth 1,000 words. Tommy is so engaged, he is rapt. He is so engaged, his attention is so riveted on her. He is so excited, Nikki. He is so willing to do everything. And he's very playful and creative. So sometimes he comes up with ideas, and it's a real collaboration, Lee, between the two of them. It's very alive, very related. Temple, actually, is someone who came to speaking circles in New York with me for years. It began with her wanting to learn presentation skills and feeling like she had basically been a shy person, Norman. And she's a very good speaker now. She's very spontaneous and interesting and related. And so she brings that also to the situation with the kids. And I loved it, Verena. I had felt during COVID, and talked to Temple about it, that we needed to do something to help teachers, parents, tutors, and kids. And it seemed worth trying doing some workshops on Zoom. And Temple did her first tryout in May, and this was her second time. But this one, I think, we could just have it be like this and continue from here. The teachers were also very engaged at this workshop. And we had created a kit for them. So people in the workshop got an extremely reduced price on the materials. So, I mean, we probably lost money on each one of them. And they could use the materials. They could try the materials out first with Temple showing them, and then they could see Temple with a child. So the teachers actually were making all kinds of insightful observations about what was happening with them, Norman, as they interacted with the materials. And the materials have been of great interest to me anyway. My husband and I and Temple did a workshop with a school system called the Edison Schools. And one of those teachers, this was many years ago, probably 20 years ago, one of the teachers said, I never understood what math was. Now, she was teaching math. I never understood what math was. I learned it rote, Ryan. And so here she was learning multiplication. And for the first time in her life, and I would say she was about 50 years old, she understood what math was. Because using this method, what happens is kids can problem solve and figure out different ways, Lee, to come to the answer for what's being asked, which is really interesting. And actually, I've learned that, Farina, over the course of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Thank you, Lois.
Lois.
Lois, inspiring.
Thank you. Inspiring. Norman.
Motivational speaker.
Nikki.
Riveting and engrossing.
Riveting and engrossing. Thank you. Farina.
Enthusiastic leadership.
Enthusiastic leadership. Thank you. Ryan.
Compelling flow.
Compelling flow. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you, Lois.
Thanks, Lois.
Thank you, Lois. Norman, 6 minutes starting with breaths, calling a name to the camera starting now.
Well, Lois, this experience with the electrical, I don't know what you call it, electrical impulse that went from one side of my head to the other, that was so quick and yet woke me up in the middle. It was pretty scary. I don't know why it happened, but I'm okay with it now. I know it's not dangerous or anything. I hope I never have another one, but Ryan, when I'm in that space down in the lower pit of my stomach, I feel the fear of being here. And I don't usually look at the videos that Lee sends us. I mean, occasionally I do, but I think I'm afraid to watch myself and judge myself harshly. But last week, Farina, I did look at the videos and I wasn't happy with myself. It wasn't terrible, but I felt like I could be more present. So I'm trying to be more present. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but that's my goal here. And Nikki, I do feel the fear in the bottom of my pit of my stomach. Not about the experience, but just being here, wanting to be here in the present with everybody here, because I really enjoy this and I love it and so important for me. Lee, I had some friends over with their wives. I set up this thing where the men would cook a meal each and the wife would sit and have wine and relax, and men would do this thing for their wives, and worked out very well. We each made a different dish. I made something for Bon Appetit, and we had different dishes there, and I felt good about it. I felt being part, I see the change in myself, being more comfortable with myself, being here more, being more relaxed, less judgmental with people. And so we had a great time. People stayed till like 5.5 hours, and it was only supposed to be a lunch. Started 1 o'clock. Would have been a dinner, Lois. So I'm very happy with myself, the direction I'm going in. Yes, I have a long way to travel. It's going to be a long highway, but I'm happy being on the highway. I feel like a trucker who's just going cross country. I'm on that highway going out west. Ryan, I feel a lot of fear in my feet, my legs rather, a lot of fear. I was working with the acupuncturist on Friday, and she's also a focusing therapist. And I find her very good, but also very funny. And she amuses me, and she's very good. She's yelling at me, "Come on, you can do it, you can do it." I said, "No, I can't." She wants me to climb this wall. And I said, every time I climb, the wall gets high. And if I climb sideways, it gets longer. And then I got to the point where the only way I'm going to get through the wall, Farina, is just feel my humiliation and shame and feel the pain. So she said, put the pain somewhere and you can get right through that wall. And I said, look, I'm not ready to do that yet. That's not easy. I'm not ready, but I'm in the right direction to feel that pain so I can get through that wall. I think I walk around, Nikki, with this immense guilt about not being able to take care of my mother when she was ill. And I saw her break down and nobody explained anything. As kids normally do, they internalize what goes on around them. So Lee, I definitely internalized that situation. And then when I saw my old brother cry, that was it. I said, I don't want to feel any pain. So I think that's my last hurrah, getting through that wall. Of course, there'll be other things, Lois. As we know, there's always things we find. Growth is a thing that we continue to find and do and use and move. This is a long 6 minutes. Okay.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank you,
Thank you, Norman.
Thanks, Norman.
buddy. Thank you.
Norman, expansive willingness.
Expansive willingness. Thank you, Lee. Nikki,
Riveting presence.
riveting presence. Thank you, Nikki. Farina,
Powerful vulnerability.
powerful vulnerability. Thank you, Farina. And Ryan,
Courageous exploration.
courageous exploration. Thank you, Ryan. Lois,
Powerful courage.
powerful courage. Thank you, Lois. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Norman.
Norman.
Thanks, Norman.
6 minutes with Ryan, starting with a breath, calling a name, starting now.
Lee, I'm still, I don't know what the word is I want here. It's either marveling or ashamed that when it's my turn, there's this kind of, it's like for a moment at least, I'm just not there. I'm not in my body. And I forget that line, where that line came from. Mr. So-and-so lives 6 feet from his body. And it's, so I think of that almost every time. And I'm really curious, Norman. Lately, I've been paying attention to, I'm not sure how to say it. Maybe it's some kind of like unconscious assumptions about how I hold myself and these biases I show up with, biases that seem to come only in a group and only in a specific time when I'm sort of, in front of everybody, for example. And Farina, there's kind of an edge that I seem to ride or walk, I don't know if walking is the word, but just riding that edge, sitting on it. And one side is kind of the concepts that I already know, Lois, and things I can talk about. Like so much has happened this week. And I think, oh, talk about that, tell a story. And Nikki, I feel myself kind of get pulled into all these old way patterns of thinking and the concepts and just even body states. And I know, Lee, that I know those patterns and I know they don't work very well. I know they just travel the same road that I've always been down and I end up in the same place. And boy, even now as I hear myself talking, I hear the frustration and the judgment toward all that. So Nikki, right now I'm letting myself acknowledge that side is okay, actually, and maybe there's a time for that. And Lois, there's this other side that's more kind of unknown, and I try to sit in it here as much as I can while I'm speaking. And the ironic thing is there's no words for that side, or the words don't come easily. And so, Norman, I often feel like I just don't want to talk. I just want to sit in that space and not speak. We can come up with a new circle name, maybe the non-speaking circles. There, I'm be at home in that, Farina. But I'm remembering too now that it's not just that there are no words. I think it's just this mode that I'm in, and really there's kind of a more poetic way of speaking. And that is what I'm trusting that I'm going to learn how to speak from, Lois. And right now what I feel is this kind of swirling kind of confusion. It's kind of it's like 80% groundlessness and then maybe 80 or 90%, 10 or 20%. There's ground. There's a ground here. And I'm guessing, Nikki, that I'm slowly learning how to move onto that new ground, how to live onto that new ground. Yeah, Lee, it's not easy. I had a philosophy professor once mentioned something similar. Something about entering into this new land that you're just totally unprepared for. You don't speak the language, you don't know the customs, you don't know how to exist there. And maybe it's something like that. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, Ryan.
Ryan.
Ryan, transparent and aware.
Transparent and aware. Thanks, Lee. Nikki,
Brave self-exploration.
brave self-exploration. Thanks, Nikki. Norman,
I forgot what I was going to say now. Courageous navigator.
courageous navigator. Thanks, Norman. Farina,
Quiet strength.
quiet strength. Thanks. Lois,
Courageous self-awareness.
courageous self-awareness. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan. Farina, 6 minutes, starting with a breath, calling a name, starting now.
Nikki. Mm, I had an interesting experience. I had an interesting week actually. I feel like I've been saying for a while, I feel like I'm at this like very transformative point. And I had something happen during my hypnotherapy session. That was so interesting. I think I'll share that right now. Ryan. So a couple years ago, my dad's sister had come to visit me she happened to come to San Francisco for her husband had a conference there, so she came there and sort of visited me, and that was the time when I just graduated from my PhD, and I was sort of lost and nervous, Lois. I was like, what am I gonna do? And is this gonna take me anywhere? And I think I was kind of hard on myself, and she just kept saying, believe in yourself, like just believe in yourself. And she's a very passionate person, and she just kept saying, believe in yourself. And I was just like amused because it's sort of like simple advice, Norman. And she used to send a lot of these like forwards and things, saying, believe in yourself, and just like pumping me up. And then Lee, shortly after that, she came back home, and then one fine day she just dropped dead on the dinner table. So that was very like shook me up because I so didn't expect that, Nikki. And but somehow that believe in yourself stuck with me, and yeah, and that's like part one of the story. And so in hypnotherapy the other day, I was, I sort of like was recollecting these moments in life where I failed to live up to my potential, Norman. Even when the stacks, when it was all stacked up in my favor, when all the odds were for me, it's almost like I sort of self-sabotaged or like got in my own way, or something very subconscious that I was trying to like, I couldn't put my finger on it. Like, what was this thing? Like, why did I? And I could remember it from like age 8. Like there was like when I was 8 years old, when I was 15 years old, when I was in college, like many times when I was like about to win this gold medal or about to like become school captain or things like that, where I just like something subconscious happened and I just didn't because of me. When everyone was sort of like expecting that, like everything in the universe supported that, Lois. And I feel like, and then when I was sort of wondering what was that common element that made me do that every time, my hypnotherapist just said, she said something like, you didn't believe in yourself. um, Ryan. And that was like such a touching moment for me, because, well, I don't know, it just sort of felt deep. And I was like, oh my God, like that's what my aunt said over and over again. And like, I was almost laughing at how simple that statement and advice was. And here it's like the reason that, like, the reason of like why I'm not where I am, or why I didn't get things, I didn't get things I wanted to get. Because I think in my life, Lee, that would be the single most painful thing for me, is like the pain of not living up to my potential, and the pain of it being so hidden, because all my work and all my talent is like, it's always like hidden. Like I have a thing about showing it. And the other day, I think last week, when I was before our speaking circles, I discovered a bunch of like poems and stories that I'd written right from when I was 7. And and they were great. There was so much like depth and soul and talent and power, Ryan, even like in the writings of when I was a kid. But I think I never really valued that, because especially growing up in India, it was like the things I struggled with were math and physics. And I think in India, it's like that's what makes you intelligent, math and physics. So I just thought that whatever my skill was like, so I just didn't believe in myself, because I was like, nobody else was thinking it was a big deal that I used to like excel in anything to do with English or language, or anything to do with subjects like that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Farina.
Thank you, Farina.
Thanks, Farina.
Serena, vibrantly awake.
Vibrantly awake. Thanks, Lois.
Deeply connected with yourself.
Sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Deeply connected with yourself.
Deeply connected with myself. Thanks, Lois. Nikki?
Empathetic and self-aware.
Empathetic and self-aware. Norman?
Incredible depth and openness.
Incredible depth and openness. Thanks, Norman.
Mhm.
Ryan?
Yeah. Tender, open power.
Tender, open power. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Farina.
Thank
you, Farina.
Yeah.
Nice trip. 2-minute closings, looking anywhere you want.
Hmm.
As long as you take a breath before you start. Nikki, no? Yeah, Nikki, completing, starting with a breath, starting now.
Hmm. I'm so thankful for the insights that I get about myself, both from having 6 minutes to explore what's going on inside of me, and then hearing each of you explore and feeling when I hear you, oh my goodness, yes, that's something that worries me or something I'm concerned about or something that I notice about me or something that I should notice about me or something that's interesting, riveting, the depth that we go into. It's good for the soul. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Nikki.
Closing with Lois, starting with a breath, starting now.
I'm with the inauguration. I read an interesting article. It may have been an opinion in the Times about Biden, about his Catholicism, about his faith, about the kind of Catholic he is. And I'm with the energy that he brings. Maybe I want to say presence that he brings to the office. Leadership. Not looking backwards. Finding the best in all of us. Trying to kindle the best in all of us. Envisioning that for all of us. I loved the first press conference. I loved the straightforwardness, articulateness, honesty, down-to-earthness, engagement of our new press secretary. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois.
Thanks,
you,
Lois.
Lois.
You, Lois.
Completing with Ryan, starting with a breath, starting now.
Was I next? I'm a little.
I think I
Maybe
was.
Norman.
Oh, did I miss Nora? I'm sorry. Thank you, Ryan. Yes, order is all. Law and order. Norman, closing, completing, starting with a breath, starting now.
I too really enjoyed the inauguration. It was very inspiring. No one's going to outdo Lady Gaga in her outfit. I feel a lot of fear in my pit of my stomach, trying to be here more, and I'm happy about it. This experience that we have every Monday is just very helpful for me. It's really had a major positive impact on me and my life and people around me. So I'm just delighted. And I'm delighted when I have a little time to spend with my 6-year-old grandson, who's just so funny and he's just so funny. I offered him water the other day and it was in a plastic bottle. So he says, sorry, it's too much plastic. So that's why his mother, Caroline, looks at me and says, yeah, he's his father's son. And then there was another time my wife and myself stopped to get him a bagel, get us a bagel and him a bagel. He said, no, I'm sorry, it's too many carbs. So it's very funny. He's got the combination of both my son's sense of humor. And my older one is very witty, and my younger one is very playful, and he's got the sense of humor of both of them. So I'm very happy about it. I'm grateful to be part of this experience every Monday. I'm grateful to be here for everybody here, and grateful to be here for myself. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Lee. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you, Norman.
Thank you, Norman.
Thanks, Norman.
thanks.
Completing with Ryan, starting with a breath, starting now.
Yeah, so in the last 2 or 3 sessions, I've talked about trees and wood and fire, and we had a lot of big trees here, and we had a wind event this past, I think it was Monday, where the winds got up to, they say, around 100 and 110 miles per hour. And our neighbor's house was almost totally destroyed by a large tree, and we have, our house is surrounded by big trees. We have a giant sequoia growing about 10 feet away from the house, and it's not giant as a giant sequoia, but it's about 2 feet around and maybe 50 feet high. And I don't know why I'm telling this story. I just felt compelled to. It's such a big event in this local community here. It was a very eerie wind. It was just completely dry. You could see the stars, and I was in the house just waiting for these crashes, like, because I know that sounds. We had a tree fall on our house last year, and that didn't do much damage. But sure enough, you could hear just these loud crashes outside, and yeah, it was really, it was funny. I would get into kind of these like odd, uncanny moods, and it seemed to be some kind of, if there's ever a case for me to be made of some kind of indigenous, elemental weather energy, this was it, because this was a very eerie kind of wind, just way out of place, way out of place. And then now the weather's changed with it. It was very dry before that, and now we have snow and nice wet weather like we need. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you, Ryan.
Farina, completing, starting with a breath, starting now.
So I feel like I'm suddenly living the same life but playing by different rules, because one, I feel very determined to not relive that wound that I've been accidentally playing out my whole life, and take my aunt's advice of believing in myself. And I think things are moving in a certain direction, like naturally, to support me with that. And yesterday I applied and got into the New York Film Academy for a writing course in screenplay, which I'm going to do part-time, so that, because I have a few offers to write some movies. So that's quite exciting, and something that is exciting because it's supposed to be like the best film school, like one of the best film schools in the world. So it's very, very daunting. It's very, very like strange to be playing according to these new roles where I have to like believe in my worth. But I'm also excited, and I also feel like there's no failure because yeah, I'm not like hoping that this like that I have to get something out of it, or I don't think I need like success from it. I just need to show up and do it, and that'll be success for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thanks,
reading.
Frina.
Oh, thank you all for this magical mystery ride here. Very relaxing. Lovely. So I hope the 5 of you can continue. I'll be with find out by email but one more breath together because this was just lovely. And from coming to the stillness, we go back into the stillness with a group hug, if you're willing.
Love you all. Have a
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you soon.